Hi, my name is Rena, and this is my mom, and we're the Philosophical Goob-za, because there's two. And today we're going to continue the journey that we have that is talking about happiness and what that looks like and how to find happiness. And today we're going to talk about it from the point of view of the Stoic. And the Stoic has to do with Stoicism, as you may guess. And even philosophers like to practice the 1 week a year or more that you can live like a Stoic. And basically, it's practicing this methodology of how to think and how to interact with the environment around you. And so, starting with Stoicism, the main broad brush stroke kind of explanation for Stoicism is basically controlling your reaction to things and understanding that you can't control the things around you.
Right. Yeah, like the environment around you is not always in your control.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can take, for instance, it's very applicable in today's environment with politics, with world events. We can't. None of us is controlling all of this that's happening. It happens whether you're vested in it or not. But you can control how you react to it. Whether you let it get to you, whether you let it bring you down, whether you let it make you happy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to have equal reactions to all these things that you cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
So that would drive you nuts. It's just not a way to live.
Yeah, and basically what we're talking about with Stoicism, so what it does is it starts with this, one of the guys that practices it from ancient philosophy, his name's Epictetus, and he was a slave in Greece. He was a slave who was also handicapped. He couldn't use his legs, and that was because the master had beaten him so badly that he couldn't use them. So he's a really amazing voice to listen to when it comes to practicing the method of Stoicism. And so what it basically says is, as my mom stated too, is that you can't control the things that happen around you. Granted, I guess you can argue that maybe you can influence some things, but ultimately you can't control like weather or decisions that aren't made by you, or if a car makes a dumb decision, or
the variables in life.
Yeah, or like the plethora of other ways in which things can happen. And so what Epictetus says is that what you can control is the way that you react to those things.
Right.
And what are some positives that you think happen from that?
Well, like I was mentioning earlier, it goes back to your grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And he never watched the news. This was way back from 60s, 70s, 80s, okay? And mom would get on him and say, Edward, how do you stay current with current events? How do you know what's going on in the world? You don't watch the news, you don't read the paper. Back in those days, we didn't have internet. And he goes, darling, it's fine. I still live here. My life still goes on. I still go to work. I still come home. I, still have a cocktail. I still see you every day. And it's good. It's all good because I can't control what goes on out there, and that stresses me out, and I can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's going to happen the same whether I let myself get stressed out about things I can't control or not. Mm-hmm. I choose to not try to let that get to me, and so he's in his happy world doing his thing. And at first I thought, well, that's kind of simplistic. And then as time went on and I matured, he's damn straight. He's damn right.
Where did you see like parts of Stoicism reflect in like your younger years versus now, or not younger years, but your like more like 20s?
I was very reactionary in my 20s, and I think it was because I hadn't had a lot of life experience outside of my little world I grew up in. You go to high school, you go to, in my case, it was junior college for a couple of years, you get a full-time job, yada yada. And I really hadn't experienced a lot of things outside of my realm, but yet when you're young, you think you know everything, mm-hmm. Because you've mastered your little world, mm-hmm. but your little world is just that, it's small.
Yeah.
Until you start branching out and exploring and traveling and meeting new people and experiencing life more. And then, so again, I would be reactionary to situations instead of being wiser and mm-hmm. sitting back and going, this doesn't deserve me reacting to, or if I just sit here and don't do something, it goes a lot smoother. Why would I do anything about this? Mm-hmm. And so as I matured and aged, I, without even really knowing it, started taking on that kind of thought, mm-hmm. because I could see the immaturity and the ridiculousness in reacting in these ways as I got older. I'm like,
Yeah,
You know.
I think especially like that's like more clear as well as volatility. So
Yeah.
like especially like if a car cuts you off, like, I just use that because it's like an everyday example.
It's current.
But like or if someone says something you don't like and you just jump to volatility, like that does a lot of stress and a
Yeah.
lot of um trouble in here. It's almost like I think it's Confucius that said, why would you drink poison and expect your enemy to die? Or
Yeah.
something like that. And that's what anger does is when you keep it
Bottled
vested
up
and yeah, and you keep it.
keep it active,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's your go-to for every little thing. Then and you're volatile, and I mean, I had a reputation of being angry or going off, you know, and then as I like I said, as I matured now, I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but yeah, I'll have an occasional like, what the, when you're driving and stuff, because that just, but if I'm in a place mentally that day, if I'm just chilling and then some fool does something, I'm like, I don't let it get me, you know, reacting to it and getting upset. I mean, there may be a day here and there where I'm like, what the? Because maybe they did something really stupid. But I try to not, you know, if I can catch myself, I try not to because it is ridiculous. And like I said, you know, I make up little funny stories and that kind of makes me laugh. Mm-hmm. Like when somebody's flying down the road and passing you and you're like, I'm not going slow, what the hell? And I go, oh, they must have explosive diarrhea. Yeah, and then that just makes me laugh. So.
Yeah, and I mean, there's different like coping mechanisms too to not giving a certain reaction. Because another thing that comes into it too that I wonder from the like psychological standpoint is how much of your reaction is genuine and how much of it is conditioning. So like especially with like the media we consume and with the practices that maybe might not be healthiest in our environments, wherever that may be, is we could just be perpetuating something. Yeah. And especially if something like I think Epictetus makes a really clear just example of when things are done to you and then not doing that outward. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to note too.
Well, and it diffuses a potential situation, especially if it's between two people or more, you know, and it could be, you know, a discussion that gets out of hand or something that's misunderstood and then people get all worked up, and it's a good way to diffuse it because you're not acting the way they expect you to act. Like sometimes people will bait you, you know, into acting a certain way.
Well, and I'm thinking too more like things that are truly like those are out of your hands as well, but also think of like the weather and like when I've heard it sometimes when I'm on my way to work and it'll be pouring rain and then people I hate the rain or and there's just all this without sounding too hippie, like it's all this negativity that's just kind of being expelled. And like number one,
does anybody really hate the rain? I mean,
they do. Yeah, they do, or they think they definitely say they do.
Golly, that's some powerful feelings.
And also like it's nature, and I think that's something that Epictetus also talks about, which I really like, is that he talks about not fighting nature in a sense, but also like going with nature. Mm-hmm. And granted, I'm using it in this circumstance, but I really like it because it's kind of understanding that you're a being in the world, and this is where it kind of comes from too. So in ancient Greece, a lot of them believed in like the gods, like polygods, right? Mm-hmm. And Zeus primarily.
Right.
So for Zeus, in this structure of God, what Zeus was in charge of was everything. So he's in charge of your blood flowing, your the birds flying, the wind blowing, the lights being on, like everything. But the only thing he's not in charge of are 4 things that we can do ourselves, which is moving forward, moving backwards, picking something up, and I think putting something down. Oh. So those are the only things that we're in charge of. Oh. Everything else you're not. So think of that in this mind frame from what Epictetus is talking about. So he's saying is if you understand that you are this thing in the world that is completely controlled by Zeus and things are just going to happen. So one example that we use is that imagine like you're walking and then this bird craps on you and then you're like, fucking bird, and you're just like yelling and stuff like that. But which is kind of funny.
I've had it happen to me.
Me too. And so like, but when that happens, you can expel all of this, oh my god, about something you can't control. But in reality, you have the motion of moving forward and backward, and Zeus was going to make the bird crap there anyway. So in this predicament, in this thinking model, it's really kind of your choice that you walked into it. And
If
it
I
was,
don't know what's going to happen right there.
yeah, but I mean, like, to say that you're upset about something that was happening anyway because it was
Yeah.
out of your control. The only part that was your control was the moving forward, and it
Yeah.
just so happened that you
The
know,
timed it
circumstance
right.
happened exactly.
Yeah.
Then that's where we come to this mindset where it's like, oh, well, I don't have to react that way. I'm a thing moving amongst many things.
Mhm.
And I think if you keep that kind of mindset, it might be super difficult, especially thinking in the framework in which we think of reality currently. Is very, very different from the Grecians, and very, very different from natives, and very, very different from a lot of spiritual or more spiritually inclined cultures. Yeah, I just think that that's a really cool way of framing it, because then if you think of it that way and practice that way for a couple days, I'm telling you, when you change your mindset too, you don't know how great that is for your brain. Your brain thrives off of nuance and off of new things, and it just exercises it, and it also just
gets you out of your box.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and expands your way of thinking, and then also having the point of view where you don't react to everything in a negative. You know, you process more. It's so much more peaceful. Like, I am so like chill now compared to when I was in my 20s.
Yeah,
I had a lot going on in my 20s. I was working, you know.
But also, like, that's the perfect
track.
That's the perfect time to practice it though too. Is when you have a lot going on, because that's when we can get overwhelmed and get in our head, and then you're like unhappy because you're thinking of all these things you can't control, like tax inflation, we'll say, or we can talk about like your car breaking down, or things that are just genuinely you're kind of a passenger for.
Yeah, and we're along for this ride in life, and things, and life happens, and like we were saying, you can't control these things, and they happen for whatever reason. And I've learned to just kind of go with the flow.
And the thing is too, it sounds easier than it is to practice, but with practice it becomes easier as well.
Yeah.
Is when you kind of take the stance of it's gonna happen anyway. So like, for example, my car literally did break down today. So like, if you think of it as it's gonna happen anyway. Whether I'm here pouting and making a scene, or if I'm just like, wow, that's so like,
here we go.
Dumb, yeah, here we go again. And so think of it like with the rain example. Like when the rain hits, like you can be that grouchy guy that's like, oh, I hate the rain, blah, 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 and like make it a bad day. Or you can be like, find a reason for joy. I mean, when's the last time you
the more it rains, the more grouchy you're going to get all day long. So your whole day is set to be negative. And
it's so like enchanting. Like, I think the thing that we're losing too is a lot of enchantment with nature. And I think that that's something that we should delve back into too, is those little serendipitous things, or those little seemingly inconvenient things that could actually be a good thing in the long run, especially if you look at those instances at where you couldn't find your keys, and then you spilt your coffee, and then you went on the freeway and there was like a 10-car pileup that was like 2 minutes ahead of you. So like, you never know, like this butterfly effect type of understanding where like you never know what's interacting with what.
Yeah.
And so when these Zeus like things, you know, or you can call it God or whatever you'd like to implement as the curator of things moving. If you think of it in that mindset, I think it alleviates a lot of the pressure that you feel like of yourself, and this necessity to control things when we're in a universe where you can't control most things.
You have to realize that we're really not in control of we're not in control of very much stuff, but people like to think they are, or in their world they are, and they really aren't. You're right. And the sooner you realize that and just start living your life and taking things in stride, the smoother things go. And then when these things crop up, like you were saying, the traffic on the freeway, and you know, well, if you would have left that 2 minutes earlier, you might have been in that wreck, rather than now you're just on the back end of it. Yeah, you got stalled and you can't get to work today, but at least you're not the dead guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Or whatever, you know. So it's just taking things in stride and not forcing your will on everything, or thinking it's up to you to balance your whole life, you know, all the angles. But it takes a moment. Like I said, it took me decades because I was such a hothead, and I had to. Oh, I got to be here. These people are in my way.
Yeah, and the thing is too with human existence, much less any existence, but obviously we're living a human existence, is that there's so much around you that is taken for granted
Yeah.
with how beautiful it is and its like simplicity, and yet it's like ultimate complexity. Like I know it might sound silly, but if you go outside and you just look at a leaf, like
Hey,
look at a leaf.
keep
You
your
don't gotta take
glasses and
anything.
look
You
at
can
the
just
leaf.
look at the leaf. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, when I got my prescription amped up years ago, I'm like, damn, there's veins in a leaf.
Yeah. And like if you just look at like all these little beautiful things, like when's the last time, like besides maybe childhood, when you like sat on some grass and like literally looked inside the grass of like what's living in there?
Like the world that's
like
in there.
It's a world, and then think of like A Bug's Life, but not the movie, because honestly the life's better than A Bug's Life.
Yeah.
And if you just look at things and use your imagination, there's so much in our world that confines our thinking into structured, utilitarianistic, and like what value do you have, and like this like very like slave, almost like you're a pawn mentality. That like go outside, go somewhere where you can find some kind of beauty and some kind of some mysticism, because there's so much of it lost in these square bleak buildings that we work in for like 40 hours a week.
Oh, definitely. Pick up a book, pick up a favorite one and read it again. I mean, I've read The Hobbit, the trilogy, like 3 or 4 times. I'm about ready to pick it up again.
In between the Republic. No, I was kidding.
The Republic, and that's just, oh god, I want to go to the cave and all this, getting me all She graduates, and now I gotta take it on.
Yeah. I gotta talk to someone about it.
But no, just things you enjoy. Like I do art. I'm not doing it as much as I used to because I've got other things going on, but I try to go back to that. Even just to break up a day and remind myself how much I enjoyed that. Going outside, at night we have a clear sky. Go out and look at the stars. Yeah, we know they're up there. Yeah, we know it's a clear night, but let's go look at it. Let's go experience it.
Yeah, and just so one of our recommendations is obviously find mysticism and like beauty in some simple things that you don't have to go somewhere and pay something. Everything's so commoditized now that it's just become like we're ingrained to think in order to have pleasure you must pay for it.
Yeah.
Which is just not the case.
No.
Especially with nature, and that's something that we're so pulled away and undervalued with right now. And we're
broke
using
for a while
it.
In your life. You'll find things to do.
There you go. And like be bored. Like for the love of God, be bored and please get away from your phone.
Yeah.
But so we'll go into that a little bit. And one thing I want to touch upon about like this idea of stoicism and how to think like a stoic is when you're watching things, especially like on media and especially on TikTok, especially on Reels and like all of that stuff, is when you're watching stuff, think about stuff like, do you care about it? So like, first of all, the media, let's put that aside really quick, but let's talk about, just to wrap this part up, is if someone's inflicting something on you and like, you don't want to regurgitate that or kind of inflict it on someone else, just sit and think about it and think like, do you care about this thing? Like, do you care about what they did to you? And if you do, like, do you think that you're being manipulated in any way to respond a certain way? So like, granted, yes, you care if someone mistreats you or something like that, but do you want to perpetrate that onto something else, whether you mean to or not, by acting out? Because again, you choose exactly, and you choose how you act. So you can't necessarily blame it and go, because I think that's also very, very not childlike, but just immature and not immature like of age. I think of soul is to say, oh, well, they like hit me, that's why I hit you. Like that's not a reason, and that's also taking the agency out of it. So if you say I only did this because this person did this to me, then that means any accomplishment you ever have is never yours to own. No. Because if you can blame your troubles on something else, you cannot blame your accomplishments. You have to blame them on someone else as well.
You have to give someone else credit as well.
So if you get praise or you get a prize or something, you say, I didn't do any of this. Like it was all this person.
No cherry picking.
Where if you can at least if you can say, I earned this or I did this, then that means you have to take responsibility for the negativity that you perpetrate as well.
Right. Yeah, because it's like if you're a passionate person, you're you're passionate on the plus side of things, but you're also passionate in the negative, and you're going to be really sharing your view or really really, emphasizing these things, but that's your character.
Yeah.
But you have to know it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the good and the bad.
Yeah, because just logically, you can't have both.
I can't play low key.
I refute the bad
when I'm mad, but when I'm happy, it's like no, that's not how character works.
Definitely. And so, what we wanted to talk about too was this idea of flipping through reels. That's what we wanted to get back to. So like flipping through reels. And so many people that I talk to now, and I mean like over half of the people I talk to, well over, I would say maybe even 80% of the people I talk to aren't happy. Like I genuinely,
that's sad.
Yeah, and they say they're depressed, they're not happy, there's not happy people, and they're looking to find happiness. And the thing is as we have talked about before, is number one, you're gonna find it within yourself. So if you're looking
there's
outward,
no happiness store you got to go to.
Yeah, and
you got to create your own.
Money can make it easier to live, but it can't provide you happiness.
No.
If you're gonna say like hookers and cars are happiness, then
well, yeah, and then ask the guy after he nailed the chick, is he happy?
And exactly, like maybe like momentarily, but also like fleeting. Those are fleeting passions and hedonistic passions that won't fulfill your soul. They're not gonna make it the long way. They're gonna say, oh, that was nice. Moment. Now let's go get some more coke. You know what I mean? So that's where it falls flat. So and then that's so one huge theory I have as to why the majority of people aren't happy right now is number one, your phone. I think your phone is a dead ringer for what's making you bummed out. Number one, it's addictive. Number two, I don't know if you knew this or not, but your phone can tell how far away you are. So if you just scroll for 15 minutes on TikTok and then set it down, it'll hold a notification until you set it down and go to walk away, buzz, so that it brings you back.
Oh.
Yes, they can tell how far away you are from your phone.
Like, get back here, you're not done with me yet.
Yes, and they'll hold certain notifications off until you're setting it down. So just, you're being manipulated that way.
Wow.
Not only that, but when you're scrolling, look at what you're scrolling on. Anything you interact with, you have to, it will continue to flood your feed with that. So for example, I've seen like someone begging for help on TikTok. Please stay for my 2-minute video. You'll help me so much.
Oh, I know. I see those too.
And here's the thing. Here's the conundrum. So number one, you want to stay because you want to help somebody. Now think about it. If you stay, that means they're going to flood your feed with those. I did that one time and I was getting, my whole feed was people begging. So then you're like, these can't all be real. Half the ones I will check their site and they take other videos from other people begging and put it on their thing so that you're just making a ton of money off of other people.
Oh,
and then secondly, you also have an internalized sense of shame and sadness because if you scroll, now you're hurting somebody.
No,
in your mind, if you're not doing, researching, and even if you're researching, some of them are fake too. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them do it for the views.
Wow.
So if you're going through here, now you're creating this internalized mess up and shame and all jacked up because you either scroll and you're hurting someone, stay for 2 minutes and now you're in pain watching them. And then once you interact with it, now your whole feed is that.
Oh, no.
And you wonder why you're sad.
See, this is why part of this, I'm glad I'm kind of ignorant to the technology because I see those and I go, someone else will comment. They get a lot of people seeing them and they don't need me. And I figure they're all fake. So that's my own naivete, but it does protect me from that.
Yeah.
Because I don't delve into that stuff and I don't fall for it.
I delved in a couple times. But
I'm too much of a cynic. See, I'm older than you. I'm twice your age. So I'm like, that's bull. So somebody help the guy that's not crying wolf, because all of them are. And if somebody really is needing help, I don't think he's going to be on TikTok going, I need help, I need views, if it's really, really legit.
Yeah, because there are some, like there's this one guy, he's trying to save his animal shelter. That's what
that's the one,
but
I've seen that one.
But I looked at his profile.
It's like in Russia or something?
No, he's in America. It might be a different guy, yeah.
Yeah, they all got the same.
Excuse me, because they also are making like the
one was holding a cat, and he's like, I gotta...
No, the woman was making like slippers, and she's selling them, so she's trying to help too. So like that's why I stayed for theirs.
Yeah.
But then once I stayed for that, now I recognize them. So granted, I will stay for their video, and maybe I'll walk away because I already know this information and everything. But then I started getting flooded, and I'm looking through them, and like over half of them are fake. And I was just like, I can't do this because like it's hurting me to like watch these people suffer, and it's not even like real, or it's like someone else's video. So So that's a huge thing. And think of all the wars going on with like Gaza, with Ukraine, and all the sorrow going on in different states in the United States and different laws they're passing. And you're being flooded with all this information that you've never been flooded with before.
You can't do jack about it.
And you can't do, I mean, granted, if you want to go to funds or you want to volunteer, sure. But what you can't do anything like in right away about it. It's not like someone's kicking a dog outside. I'm going to go and jump him right now, which I would. But like, but like, not that means I will, you know, but in the future for liable reasons. But like, if it's something I can do something about, that's one thing. And now think about what that's doing to your psychology.
Yeah.
You're sitting and you're suffering through all this information, all this. The world's going to crap. The world's going to crap.
Can't do anything about.
If you stay away from your phone and you go outside and you talk to people and you go out there, I was just talking about this with a professor friend of mine. Like, if you go out there, it's not going to hell. Like, you go out there, you're talking to people. You have a community. Like, it's so amazing the night and day you will feel from just getting the fuck off your phone. Like, for the love of God.
And actually experiencing life firsthand. Not
through a screen. And then with all these influencers that show you how they're on their yachts and they're like going in their 12th mansion and they're gonna eat caviar off of a freaking boogie board, I don't know. But like, they're doing all these extravagant things, making you feel even worse because they're
like you're not a success.
And also you're lining their pockets too. So now these people that don't give a shit, no offense, about you, they don't know you, they never will. They're eating off of their, eating in their new car. They're,
flying their Learjet.
I met like there's guys that literally flip a car and then buy a new one the next day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these,
yay to be you,
whatever. Like, nice for them and everything or whatever. But like, also stop lining their pockets. Like, because these people that are being looked up to so much so are, no offense, are trash. They're people that have very little that they're giving to the world of humanity. They don't have humanity in and of themselves. They're bored rich humans.
They're bored little trust
and they can literally pay the world 10 times over to not starve and suffer.
They're doing
but they
this
don't
for
care.
fun and shits and giggles. Because they've already got their money made, they've already got their life set, and this is just games for them.
Exactly, and outside of that,
expense.
Exactly, and then outside of that, you have these. So we're going to talk not about politics itself, but about what they do. So what they do is they see something that you like, they flood your feed with all the things that go in line with those things.
The dopamine.
And then you end up entrenching in this bias that makes it black and white to you, to where you're like, it's black and white, and it's not black and white, not even close.
No part of life is.
Exactly, and if you even look at, back in when they did statistics about the voting, the majority's in the gray middle. So like, it's not black and white, but what they do is they try and entrench you in these views that make you
and then pitch you
cynical about the world. They make you not want to talk to people, not tolerate people that might disagree with you. Because I'm telling you, if you cutting out people for I don't agree with you. I mean, granted, if it's like pedophilia or something, sure. But I mean, if it's just like
just a view on
a tax or something like that, then like you need minds in order to challenge your minds and in order to discuss, to challenge, and just see if you're right. And if you keep shutting out that conversation, you're not helping your mind.
Because you don't want to preach to the choir. You're not gaining any kind of insight, point of view. But if you have differing points of view, that's where discussion begins. And the media would have the world believe that there is no discussion, there is no middle ground. Everybody hates everybody, and it's like, and there is a small faction, I think, of the public that does, and small-minded people that are buying into this junk. But the reality is, like she was saying, you go out in the world and you engage with your friends, your family, people and in my experience, I've got people on all sides of the fence. So we'll say politics, religion, whatever. And we're still friends. And we've been friends for over 30 years, going on 40 years. If your relationships are so shallow that who you vote for cancels a 30-year friendship, then maybe you didn't have one. Yeah. But you need to experience things firsthand, not over media. That's not the truth.
And and getting onto media too, with this whole black and white like idea and like the narrative that they're doing. So the number one, it's throwing all this garbage onto you to where you
Mhm.
feel bad and like the world's falling apart.
Yeah.
Then they're throwing political onto you, so you feel like we're all divided, we're all this. And think about it. Where do you go to first when you're having a rough day? Where do you go to first when you want to relax? Your phone. And if you're going to your phone,
that's feeding you more
that's
anxiety.
what I'm saying. And if you're going there, if you're running to your phone to escape your life,
Uh.
that is feeding you what to believe and what your life is. Your brain consumes and keeps a hold of what it thinks it needs to survive.
Yeah.
So, and it expels other good things, like things that you experience in the real world. So if you're running to your phone to escape, and then your escape is tainting your mind and making it
more
all
of this garbage.
And then where do you think the depression comes from? Where do you think
Yeah.
the sadness comes from? Where do you think
Because your whole
the
world
myopic
is
view
that
comes
stuff.
from? Yeah, and
you
then
have no break from it.
and it makes it so that your happiness and your worldview is literally in someone else's hands.
Yeah.
And it should be in your own.
It should be in your own. The thing is, people don't realize that they have the power to form their own life and happiness and how they view things.
Mm-hmm.
No one else has the power, but everyone seems to give it away.
Yeah.
And the minute you realize it's in your control, and you can take it back at any time, even if you've been living this way through the media, through all this BS, you can take it back. And you can be in control of your happiness and what you allow into your life to feed that and what makes you happy. And you can block all the other BS out. I do it all the time, and I'll tell you what, doesn't bother me a damn bit because we still will be informed in different ways, but I don't need to plug in directly 24/7 to know. And I have friends that will let me know, and some of them do.
And that's what I was gonna say is that how many people on this planet have you, like, if you next time you go somewhere, don't have your phone, like have it in your pocket or whatever, and literally watch people.
Yes.
And you will
how
see
many are like this?
They don't leave their phone. Like they walk across the street, they're always like on their phone. It's like they're plugged in and tuned out.
Well, it was like yesterday, the one anomaly we saw yesterday, we were at a bakery and there was a line forming and we were like, and Rena's like, I don't believe it. And there was like maybe about 5 or 6, no, it was like 8 because there were groups of people in line to pay. And not one of them was on their phone. I go, wow, what? She goes, oh, I know why. I go, why? She goes, because their hands are full. They've got baked goods in one hand and they can't. I go, oh, that's funny that it's something that base that's keeping them off their freaking phone.
I know, other places could learn from them.
But they had to stand there and like look at people, and they had to engage. They had to speak to their partner. And there was a group of about 4, and they were actually having conversation and a good time. Yeah. They were laughing, and I go, that's how it needs to be. Put the devices away. We need to go back to the reason we carried them was for emergencies only. That's I took forever to get a phone. And then when I finally did, I had a plan that was like, I don't know, $30 a month, and you only got like 10 minutes a month. And then it went up to like some crazy price. So, because I only had it for emergencies since I worked in the city and you were out here when you were a kid. So, but we've gotten to rely on these so much for everything beyond entertainment.
And now it's almost for your mental health. You're trying to rely on something that is not there for your mental health.
That's not real.
That will actually weaponize it against you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So getting back to and wrapping up our episode on Stoicism, I'm going to go into it a little bit more in depth for those that want to read more on Epictetus. If you guys also wanted to read along with me, this is the book that I'm using. It's really, really thin. It's a little handbook. It has like some places that you can write in the back as well. But I'm going to go into that in more depth next week's episode. But for this one, I wanted to end on the note that we shouldn't leave the happiness of ourselves in the hands of someone else, like media, who's not there for you. They're there to make you interact, which means to manipulate how you feel.
Right.
To make you engage more, or try and coerce you rather into engaging more.
Yes. Take your power back.
Yes, take your power back.
Take your power back. Happiness.
And also remember to find happiness in the good things in life, the little things in life, and also find something you love that obviously doesn't hurt anybody and nurture it. It doesn't matter how small, how dumb it seems to someone else. The value that is in something for yourself can only be made by you. Right. So if you think value comes from, I know this is a silly example because I do it, but like I paint rocks. Like
they're really cute.
They're pretty cute, but they have little faces on them and stuff, and they're cool little guys. and to others it might be dumb or useless or whatever, but I don't care. That's something that I find value in, and that's all that matters, is if you find value in it. Don't listen to anyone else. They're just jealous they don't have a cool little thing like that.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have good paint.
Because honestly, why would they hate on something if you're literally just doing your own thing?
Yeah.
It means they're probably bored.
Exactly. They're just not imaginative. You know, but yeah, just find joy in the little things, and the simpler you make things and make your life, to me, the happier you get. When it gets so complicated and overwhelming, that's when your anxiety heights up.
And work your way up. Like the complexity will be there, you know.
Oh yeah, that's always going to be there. Yeah, yeah. The minute you kind of kick back, and again, it took me a lifetime to do this. I didn't get into this like, oh yeah, like I had an epiphany or anything. It took decades, because my lifestyle was busy like any other young person's, and raising a kid and going to school and going to work. But once you get a handle on stuff and then you see a shift in your life, that's when it came for me, is when my life shifted in a different gear.
Yeah, and I think with practice too, with things like living like a stoic and challenging yourself to try something new, because if you're unhappy, like it's time to try something new.
Right. Life doesn't have to be like that.
And it doesn't hurt to try it. You can always go back.
You can always go back to being miserable, Happiness isn't for you. You can always go back.
But remember to try living like a stoic. Check us out on our continuous talk and journey for happiness, amongst other topics that will be bi-weekly. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Philosophical Goob-za, because there's two. And remember to be excellent. Bye.
Bye.